Strategy 2 I call Timelines and Active Hope. This strategy has 5 steps. The first 2 are about timelines and the last 3 are about active hope. What I mean by timelines is recognizing that whatever situation you face, the future can unfold in many different ways. Each of those is a different timeline about how the situation can develop. Where resilience is really helpful, where resilience is really needed, is when things take a turning for the worse. And even here, this same principle applies, that even when you follow the timeline of things working out really badly, that even in the worst situations, there are different ways that it can turn out. There are better versions and worse versions. And so what we're looking at with resilience is, how do you find the best possible outcome, even when things have taken a turning for the worst? So the second step is to remind yourself of this. Remind yourself that the future can unfold in different ways by asking yourself 3 questions. What's the best that can happen here? That challenges the pessimism that assumes the worst. But also, if you only thought about the best that can happen, there's a danger that you could miss recognizing risks, that you could become complacent. So the second question is, what's the worst that can happen here? Those are the 2 extremes. What's the best? What's the worst? And also then the third question is, what's most likely? And those 3 questions gives you a perspective check. It helps you maintain a sense of possibility where you're open to the fact that really you don't know what will happen. And that uncertainty of not knowing can be reassuring. It reminds you that even though you may fear the worst, you don't know that it will work out that way. This perspective check of asking these 3 questions of what's the best, what's the worst, what's most likely to happen here, that's part of the Penn Resilience Program that I mentioned in the introduction, a proven intervention to reduce the risk of anxiety and depression. Recognize timelines, consider possibilities. Then we move into active hope. And the first part of active hope is just to start from where you are. And you could say, well, where else would you start from? But in fact, it's quite common to find part of ourselves at least not wanting to look at a problem. Or if we're looking at an issue, we might think we should be starting from a different place, that we should have already sorted the problem out, and being hard on ourselves because we're somewhere different to where we wanted to be. So starting from where you are involves an acceptance of, even though you may not like what's happening, you accept that this is your starting point. Facing what you face, feeling what you feel, noticing what you notice. This is where you begin. But then we move on to the 4th step of this strategy by identifying your hopes. Of the many different timelines that could happen from this point, what's your preferred timelines? Which way would you like things to go? I use the beginning sentence, I'd love it if. Or it might be, what I'd like to happen here is. Or it might also be, what I really don't want to happen here is. Your hopes also include your hope nots, what you hope won't happen. So identifying your hopes gives you a direction to head in. And then the final step of this strategy is to take action. Active hope is different from being hopeful. It's about taking active steps to make your hopes more likely. So that's what you do with this strategy, these 5 steps. First, recognize timelines. Second, consider possibilities. Third, start from where you are. Fourth, identify your hopes. And then 5th, take action. Take action to make your hopes more likely, to aim for the best and away from the worst. And you might ask, well, what if you don't know what to do? What if you can't see how you can take action? Then I'd say you can take an inner step, a step inside yourself. When you make a decision, when you make a commitment, that is a step. It's an internal step. So if you make a commitment and decision at this stage to saying, well, okay, I can't see what to do, but I'm going to begin the journey of finding out. And even if you don't feel resilient, it's like, well, would you like to be? Would you like to follow the timeline that heads towards being more resilient? Then you begin the journey. You begin exploring, you begin training yourself. And the next strategy is really helpful here.